This is gonna make a real nice change. Using A3 rather than A4 paper, which I've been doing for my whole career. Ooh. That looks pretty nice, I must admit. It's got leather on top. Power supply. Firstly, I don't speak Chinese. Aha, okay, we're fine. First impressions of this thing, really nice. Seems really, really well built. Kind of looks like the inside of a Mercedes. We got this leather trim on top, this like ripple effect. What's that, satin silver? Love it. Looks way better quality than this piece of plastic that I've been using for the last 4 or 5 years. Although, not to disrespect brother, but it's been doing the job. I am really excited because over 6 years of tattooing, I've only ever used A4 paper, and whenever I'm working on big projects, I'm constantly printing multiple pieces of paper, lining them up, sticking them down, cutting it out, and it's a real faff and uses up a lot of my time in the mornings for my tattoo projects. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the answer to that I can just print out one large A3 piece of paper, a stencil, when I'm working on, say, upper arm, side of thigh, back pieces. I'm obviously not going to be able to get away from that. I'm still going to have to print off multiple pieces, but not as many. So hopefully this is going to be a time saver in my work, and I will let you know how it goes. And obviously we're going to need to be testing the Saferly A3 stencil paper as well. That's going to be paired with this. So I'm hoping that sticks down nice, doesn't smudge. So without any further ado, let's plug this thing in, read the instructions so we don't make a fool of ourselves, and figure it out. I've been using this machine now for about 4 weeks, so I feel like I've got a pretty fair understanding on how to use it, how it's been treating me, and I've made up my mind on whether or not it's going to be something that I'm going to be using on a daily basis to create all the tattoo projects that I do. First things first, let's discuss the machine itself, capabilities, the printing quality, all things like that. The main thing that I have noticed that I'm capable of doing with this machine and not my previous brother stencil machine is I can run filter gallery through this no problem. If you're unaware, filter gallery is basically a setting on Photoshop where you can take your design, run it through a particular filter, and it does all of the stencil line work for you. It's much, much faster than doing a stencil by hand, of course, but what I used to find on my old brother machine, because the lines were bolder and it would pick up lots of tiny little textures, running it through the brother machine, it used to choke up the machine and the paper would get stuck, just not work. So basically what I was forced to do with certain projects was do a hand stencil, which, depending on what the tattoo is, that could add like 1 or 2 hours for a whole project that I'm saving now by being able to use filter gallery. So night and day difference for me is a lot of the tattoo projects I can do. I can run filter gallery through this machine. It doesn't clog up. It literally just goes through seamlessly. It prints out crystal clear, which is perfect. So if you think about it, say I save like an hour per tattoo by not having to hand stencil. Over the course of a year, that could be days and days and days worth of time that I've literally saved just by being able to run my stencil through a computer program, filter gallery, and then go straight to the machine. So that is major, major win in my opinion. And of course, the obvious, being able to do an A3 stencil paper rather than an A4 is a massive time saver as well. A lot of the tattoos that I do, for example, maybe the upper arm, something about this sort of size, it can be covered in one piece of stencil paper. So I don't have to print off 2 or 3 A4 pieces, line it up, stick it together. And that is also going to save me a ton of time in just sizing the stencil. Just print it out, stick it on, good to go. That is a major win as well. Overall, to sum up the capabilities of this machine, I can't fault it. It prints out clear stencils, and step up in size is a massive time save. I'm saving a ton of time by not having to hand stencil, and I'm saving a ton of time by not having to line up multiple pieces of paper. 10 out of 10. Here's the moment of truth. So the stencil machine can print off great, but that's only really half the battle. Having a successful day tattooing is also heavily reliant on the paper itself and whether or not it's gonna stick well to the skin and last and not smudge and give you a stress-free day. So because there aren't many stencil machines on the market that are A3, as far as I know, I think this might even be the only one. It kind of leaves you no choice but having to use the Saferly A3 thermal paper that pairs with this machine. I picked up a pack of this to go with it, and you almost don't even realize how much bigger A3 is to A4. I know it's double the size, obviously, but spending your life working with A4, this just feels enormous. Like, that is basically the whole tattoo there, right? Now, there's not too much to say about the paper itself. Comparing it to the spirit paper that I normally use and have been using pretty much my entire career, I don't think I've ever used any other paper. So I have no faults to ever say with this. I find spirit paper, once it's stuck on, pretty much lasts me most of the day, as long as I'm using a good stencil adhesive to the skin. I feel like comparing the two, they're basically the same. I don't notice any difference in quality. Does one last longer on the skin? Can it withhold more wiping throughout the day? It feels like it's the same. So that's, I can't knock it, basically. That was my main concern, was if I didn't like the paper, then I would ultimately not like the machine either, which would be a shame. It's a win on the paper. The only thing I did notice, which was slightly different between the two, which could be an issue in some scenarios. Let's say you stick the stencil on and you get the position slightly wrong and you rub it off and then you go to re-stick. What I've noticed that spirit paper has always been fairly forgiving. I've been able to reuse the same printout maybe 2-3 times before having to reprint because the paper's too wet, damaged. I've noticed that the Saferly paper isn't as forgiving. It doesn't last as long. Pretty much most of the carbon transfers over in that first initial stick, and then when I've had to wipe off the stencil and then re-stick, it doesn't leave as much carbon residue, so I found that it's just been better off just to reprint on my second attempt. So it's a minor issue which can like take up a little bit extra time, but once the stencil's on and you start tattooing, like, it doesn't really matter, I guess. So maybe, yeah, maybe spirit paper does take the lead ever so slightly, but I mean, maybe if Spirit made an A3 version of their paper, then that would be the ultimate win. But yeah, it's so minor to me, I don't consider that an issue. I've also seen online, and I don't know if it works, that you can actually print the photo of your design straight through the machine and not have to do any type of outline. So let's give that a go. Here's a design that I've made for a tattoo that I'm working on tomorrow. This is gonna be pretty cool actually. So if you're interested in seeing how this whole project comes together, this is a full sleeve design. Make sure you hit the subscribe button now if you haven't already, and follow for me making this tattoo. This is gonna be freaking awesome. I'm gonna take this design and turn it black and gray, and let's run it through the machine and see if it works. This is gonna be interesting. Whoa. That's actually crazy. Now, I personally would never work from a stencil like this because I like to see lines and not have to have a big blue mess on the skin. I want to keep it as simple as possible. But I've seen online some people like to work from stencils like this. I guess that is the ultimate time saver. Like, you literally just take your design and run it through the machine. So if you can work from something like this, then I don't see why not. It's impressive that the machine can do that and the paper can pick up all of those tone changes. I don't know, would that actually transfer onto the skin, or would it just be a big blue blob? Who knows? I would never even bother. I've been using outlines or some variation of an outline in my stencils for ever, so I'm not going to change anytime soon. This brings me to talking about the app. Now, first things first, the app and the printer, they speak to each other seamlessly. As long as your printer is turned on and your Bluetooth is on your iPad, it's going to connect straight away. If not, you just press the top left of the screen. Mine literally connected straight away. I didn't have to do anything. So that's good. So what you do is you press add, take your stencil, and then go on to where you pick your paper size and then size up the stencil. This is one annoying thing about the app, which I think could definitely do with an update. This design, where this rectangle is here, I exported this stencil to A3. It is the exact measurements of A3. Now, whenever I do my stencils, what I do is I hold up the piece of paper, the stencil paper, and I will use that to measure against the client's skin, and then I'll be able to figure out an estimate just by looking and judging against the sides of the paper how big the stencil needs to be. So I'll go over to Procreate and then I will size my stencil to the size of the paper. If it's any bigger than the paper, then I will make sure the canvas size is bigger than my stencil paper. I will get the stencil in proportion to the canvas size. Then I'll crop it to A3 or A4, export it, and then go back, crop it again, get the bit that I didn't crop the first time, and then export again, and so on until I have the whole stencil sized up. For example, if you look at this one here, I have all the pieces of the stencil to make up the whole design across 4 pieces of paper. This is A3, like I said, but it just throws it into the document at a standard size. Even though you got these measurements on the X and Y axes that says up to A3, I don't know why it wouldn't just default it to the full size of the paper. It just doesn't really make sense. Now, for a long time, I thought you would have to drag this out manually, which is a bit annoying, but there's actually a size edit in the corner. So you have to type in the size of your paper. So for A3, width is 297. And as long as you have aspect ratio locked and you exported your document to A3 properly, it should automatically put that as 420. And then I have to line up the corners. And now that is the right size of my stencil. It's pretty minor, you can work around it just by having to do this every time, but it is a bit of a nuisance. And with just an update where the app could just read the size of my image that I've exported it would make the most sense. Like, that seems a bit unnecessary, but it's the same here. So if I go A4, it just defaults to the same size. And look, if I go back to A3, it just keeps defaulting. I'd have to go back into this, back, delete that, 297 again, done, and then it does it. And it doesn't save it either. So if I came off of this and had the right size, and then I work on a different tattoo, and then maybe a few weeks later I come back and my client returns, we're gonna carry on with this one, I'm gonna click on it again, and it goes back to where it was. It doesn't save it. So in my opinion, if there was a save feature, then that would at least eliminate this extra step. You would just do it once, but you have to do it every time you go back onto the document. I mean, it's minor, it's just a bit annoying. At least it's not a mechanical issue. It's just a programming issue for the app. So if there's a future update and they can fix this, then in my opinion, it's gonna do everything you need it to do. To sum up this review, I think it's a great machine. It does what you want it to do, which is make crispy stencils that are gonna stick to the skin all day, not smudge, be easy to read, etc. And you want it to look good. Like, come on. That is a good looking stencil machine. Not that it really matters, like your client is probably not even gonna see it. As tattoo artists, we are looking for things that are gonna streamline our day-to-day, save us time, not be a pain in the ass. We already have to think about so much when tattooing. We want stress-free environment, and Me stepping up my stencil machine to this has majorly done that for me. So I am incredibly grateful to Killer Ink for sending me this stencil machine. I have been using it every day since I got it, and I'm going to be using it every day for all of my tattoo projects. Every day that I'm tattooing, I'm using this machine. For small tattoos, it does the A4 with the spirit paper, crispy. The paper that comes with this machine, the A3, it's just as good. It's great. Makes those big tattoos, the prep, so much faster, not having to stick together multiple pieces of paper. It's saving me tons of time. Only downside is the app is a little clunky, but is it that big of a deal? I don't think so. It just needs an update. If you want to pick one up for yourself, link in the description to Killer Ink. That is the place to get it. Use the discount code as well that I'm gonna be leaving right here. Let me know if you get yourself one of these. Let me know if you need one of these. If you're type of artist doing big tattoos, then definitely it's gonna be having your name written all over it. If you're new here and you're interested to see the type of tattoos that I make, go check out my channel, subscribe if you haven't already. I post tattoo vlogs almost every single week. I don't actually do review videos, just sometimes. When there's a product worth reviewing. Take it easy, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week.